Are you anxious about the upcoming United States presidential election? Do you fear making the wrong choice? Are you afraid of your rights being taken away or the wrong party having a little bit too much power? Well, I understand how you feel. I too am feeling a little bit stressed and anxious about this upcoming election. So my name is Adri. I'm currently a clinical psychology master's student, and I'm currently in a research class. And I decided to use some of my research skills that I'm learning in this class to understand why I'm feeling so anxious and kind of come up with some strategies to feel a bit better. I watched some videos on U.S. government and really trying to understand the actual power and the limits of the power as the government. So join me on this journey. I think by the end of this episode, you won't feel so stressed and anxious. I think you'll feel empowered and ready to cast your ballot. If you already haven't, you'll feel confident and excited to do your due diligence in this country. So here we go. Welcome to the Audacious Adri Show. So I'm Adri, a developmental therapist and life coach, and my mission here is to unlock your full potential in mental, physical, and spiritual health. So you can go ahead and follow me, subscribe to this channel if you enjoy this kind of content. You can also hit the bell for notifications, and you can do me one last thing. It's a free way, another free way to support a growing YouTube channel. Hit the thumbs up for me. Okay, so here we are, another presidential election. For me, it's been incredibly traumatic since 2020. So I completely checked out. It's a little secret about myself, I used to have a podcast prior to the Audacious Life podcast, and it was more centered around like women's rights and pop culture. And we did spend me and my former co-host spent some time discussing politics. And I honestly was just so stressed from that election, from the the day of the first month of the year. I don't even know if I can say that on here. I was just so stressed and so traumatized from all that. So I took a break from politics. I've been a fan of politics, or I've been really involved, really enjoyed politics for most of my life. So here we are in another election, and we are all just feeling very stressed. Some aren't, but I know the majority of the people that I know. So personally, as a therapist, I need to be on top of things. I need to be taking care of myself so that I can take care of my clients. And I've already actually been in sessions with clients that are a little nervous. I have clients that are immigrants. I have clients that have disabilities, and I work with children and their families. And there's a lot here at stake for many people. Climate change is one. We all have to live on this planet. Reproductive rights is one. I'm dealing with families, family planning. Let's see, the economy. There's so many, immigration. There's so many crucial things that we're voting for, and we are wanting to make the right choice, right? So I'm not here to tell you what to do. I'm not going to tell you which way to vote. That's just not really my goal right here. My goal and my mission is to help people live better lives, and that's really it. So I wanted to start quickly with what the president does. So I have some notes on that. So I'm going to be referring to my notes. So the president, I just think we need to spend at least a couple of minutes on what the president does, okay? So the president is the commander in chief, and he is in charge of the military power. That's like number one. So his first job, like a parent, is to keep us safe, okay? He is in charge of the armed forces. So if something goes down, that's the one that has the nukes. He or she has the button on the nukes. So, or if I don't think they can draft. I didn't get that far. So you're going to have to do your own research on that, but it's very important. So number two, they have judicial power. So they appoint federal and Supreme Court judges. I'll get back to that. Okay. That's really important. Hold that thought. Okay. They are the chief diplomat. So they are a source. They're the source of foreign policy, and they legitimize nation states. And how they do that is by receiving ambassadors of other states. They can also make treaties. Okay, I'm gonna take a little sip. This is sparkling water. If you're new here, I love sparkling water. Okay. Number 4, they can propose laws, but they only have limited power when it comes to laws. They can't write laws, but they can work through a Congress member or a Senate member to introduce, because the power for laws goes through the legislative power. We'll talk about that in a minute. Hold that thought. I will say they have power to influence laws. And lastly, they have executive power. So they are, I don't know what I wrote this, y'all. This is 1985 over here. They ensure that the laws are carried out. So keep that in mind. Okay, so I'm going to keep this really quick. And I want to say this, I got most of my information, pretty much all of my information from the Crash Course YouTube channel. I've been watching Crash Course for many, many years. Probably, if they were around since undergrad, I've been watching them. They have helped me pass many classes. So I'm so grateful for them. I will link them in my bio. Okay, so our United States government is split into 3 branches. Okay, we have the legislative, that's the big boss. I don't know if you know the Victoria Monet song, Big Boss. They're the big boss. Okay, legislative power, they are the number 1. Keep that in mind. Okay, so legislative. Number 2, executive. That's where the president lies. And 3, judicial. Those are the judges. So we have 3 branches of government because they need to have checks and balances. They need to make sure that one isn't doing too much. One isn't getting too much of a big head and doing the most. And the reason why that was created, because in the Federalist Papers by I forgot which president that was. John. It was a John. The Federalist Papers was written by, I have to look it up, y'all. I'm a look it up kind of person because that's the kind of person I am. And I like to be correct. So I got to look it up. Federalist Papers. And I remember reading some of the Federalist Papers back in the day in AP US history. And I wanted to dive in that when I did my research for the show, but I was like, because I will read every single one. Okay. I love government. Okay. Federalist Papers, Alexander Hamilton, John Jay, and James Madison. Okay, so they are the source of how our government. They basically propose how our government was written, and I believe it was James Madison. And please correct me if I'm wrong. Said that these checks and balances need to be proposed because it's human nature to have to kind of basically do too much, to basically use too much force and too much power. And we can all agree that that's a thing. I mean, I'm not going to endorse anybody because you know what I'm saying? I'm not doing that right now. I mean, if you know me, you know who I'm voting for. If you've been around for a while, you pretty much know who I endorse. But we're going to keep this educational. Okay, so legislative is the number 1 power. Executive is the presidential power, and judicial. So what does the legislative do? There's so many things. They make laws. They have power over the president and the Constitution. They're basically the president's bosses. When we think like, oh, the president, he's so powerful. He is powerful. He is the commander in chief, but baby, he has a boss. It's just like businesses. Like businesses are like large corporations. I remember I just thought about this. I used to work for a restaurant owned by a very, very big company that we all pretty much use every day. Pretty much everybody that's watching this probably uses this app and is really and deals with this company. And there was a little kid, and this little kid was like, who's the person, the CEO of this company, who's their boss? And I said, the shareholders, us. We're the shareholders of America, and we're not essentially, well, we are, and we get to vote on the bosses of the president. So keep that in mind, right? So they make laws, they preside over the president. They can override the president's veto. I thought that was so cool. They can override the president's veto. They can refuse to pass laws that the president wants to pass, and they can refuse to appropriate funds for executive programs. That's like a big star. That's like the biggest thing for me. Okay. I wrote some other notes on that. They can impeach the president. They can they can choose who the chief just they can veto um, judges that the president wants to nominate to appoint. So yes, so they impeach the president and they're in charge of who the chief justice is. And side note, the chief justice, our current chief justice, like a lot of these judicial executive judges have lifetime seats. I keep that in mind. They can decide the presidential candidate. So let's just say we have an election. I really hope this doesn't, because they just say we have an election and it's a tie in the electoral college. They actually make the decision, which has actually never happened. So let's just hope that it doesn't. And all the bills that increase taxes begin in the House of Representatives. So that's the House. They are very important. So we have this, and then so the legislative branch is in two branches, the House and the Senate. The Senate can hold the impeachment trials. They can ratify, which means to approve treaties, and they have confirmation power. So they confirm the appointment of the executive offices like federal judges, like the chief, the chief justice. Here are some of the federal judges that they can confirm. Okay, they decide these things. They can decide Supreme Court. They can confirm Court of Appeals judges. Like if you want to appeal something, that's your people. They can confirm the district court judges, the senior judges, the magistrate judges, bankruptcy judges, and there's over 1,000 offices that the Senate can confirm. Also, did you know that the Supreme Court justices are nominated by the president for lifetime appointments? And there's some of these federal judges, their salaries cannot be reduced while in office. So there's that. That's the that is the legislative branch. That's the House of Representatives. And the Senate, that's called a bicameral situation. And that's where we are with that. We talked about the president. He executes laws. He's basically the CEO of the U.S. He basically defends the Constitution and makes sure that the laws are being followed. And lastly, we have the judicial branch that like no one ever talks about. They're kind of third in line. God bless them. Let's see, they interpret the law. They can declare laws unconstitutional. The Chief Justice, he lives there. That's where he lives. And he presides over the impeachment trial. They basically check the executive branch. So they check them, make sure they're doing what they're supposed to do. They can issue federal warrants in federal crimes. They can veto Congress laws. Let's see. Oh, wait, sorry. I wrote this in such a weird way. Okay, so wait, let's go back to the president. The president can veto congressional laws, but it can be overrode. They can call Congress into a special session if there's like something that's a really hot pressing issue. The president can do that. A president can't make new laws, just so you know, but he can veto certain laws. He can draw out the process. There was something else that the judicial system can do, and I wanted to talk about that. There's just so much. So look it up. Look it up. So the president isn't like the most important person in the whole thing. Okay, there's people that check him and that make sure he's doing what he's supposed to do. So if you are super stressed and you're like, oh my God, we're all gonna unalive because so and so will become the president. No, that's not how it is. There's processes. There's a way to we have have y'all ever watched a Senate session? Have y'all ever watched any of those congressional sessions? They're so long. There is a checks and balances and there is a way to do things in this country. So I just want to tell you right now to just take if you're worried about some things, let's just talk about navigating election season with some self-care. So like I said before, this is a really important session for our election for us. We have a woman of color on the ballot, Vice President Kamala Harris. So that's pretty monumental. Donald J. Trump is running again, as you all know. He's already been a president before, and he's going for the second. He's going for his third election. And I think he said if he doesn't win this one, he will no longer run. So there's that. I just want to say that it's really, really important to vote. I believe the 13th Amendment gave Black males the right to vote. I wrote it down because I'm not good with numbers. I think it was the 19th Amendment gave women the ability to vote. And, there's what amendment was it that Black women could vote? Listen, civil rights of 1963, our people, my people, have been fighting for our rights to be able to live as equal citizens in this country. And I've been recently seeing videos on social media about poll taxes. So when my ancestors were going out, when some of your ancestors were going out, and Black Americans were going out to vote because they had that right to vote, there were still hoops that they had to jump through. Some people had to decide between feeding their families and voting. And as we know, voting polls are voting taxes or polls, whatever you want to call it, they are not illegal. So voting is free. It's free 99 for us to do. So it's really important that we all exercise our right to do that, because if you are a Black American, if you are a woman, if you are an immigrant and you earned that right when you were naturalized into this, or you received your green card, it is such a privilege and a duty. I want to encourage you to exercise that right. It is a tool for change. Every person has a voice in this country. I have clients that are from other countries and they are not allowed to vote. Their leaders are born into their position through a monarchy. And they are also not allowed to talk negatively about their leaders. So we have the privilege in this country to not only criticize our leaders, but we can actually do something about it. And when we talk about Congress and the House of Representatives, we get to vote those people in. We get to influence and make a decision. And if they don't do what they're supposed to do, baby, there's some, not all of them, but there are some positions that have term limits, baby. You can get out of here. So not only is the presidential election important, honey, those what is it called? It's every 2 years, a congressional elections, just as important. And I didn't realize that until I started voting. I started voting obviously at 18, and I'm not going to tell you which election was my first election, but I didn't realize until later how important the congressional elections are. So those are every 2 years. So our local politicians are just important. Your county clerk can decide if they're going to give you a marriage license. Okay. This stuff is really important. So I didn't really do a dive into local politics, but I want to encourage you to research your local politicians and don't just like people say, vote a certain color down the ballot. I don't personally believe in that. I believe in picking the right candidate. So there's that. So number 2, managing your election related stress and anxiety. Okay. I think it's important. We talked about anxiety. If you need some help with anxiety, I suggest you watch my previous episode of this. It was like episode 80, I think. It was about anxiety. I give you some ways to manage your anxiety. So I think that's a great podcast episode to listen to. Next, limit your social media time. I would say this is coming out on either Wednesday or Thursday. I would say for like the next week and a half, just watch. Like for me, I won't be on social media the day of the election. I just won't. I'm going to tune in to the news at the end of the day after I did everything I needed to do, my long self-care. I want extra self-care. Yeah, extra self-care. However you need to do. If you need to go for an extra walk, if you need to sleep a little bit more, if you need to go get a massage, if you need to pray a little bit more, if you need to meditate for 50 more minutes, do what you need to do. If you don't have a self-care routine, I definitely want to recommend getting one. Practicing mindfulness. Like this morning, I sat on my balcony and I just I just looked there. My phone wasn't even out there with me. I didn't even bring it. And I just looked at a tree and I heard the birds singing. And I was just like, wow, I really like this moment. And I wasn't intentionally doing this, but I just stopped and I used my four senses. I looked, I saw I paid attention to what I saw. I paid attention to what I heard. I took in the smells, I put my hands like on my body. I felt my body like I'm alive in this moment. And I said to God, I said, God, I really love this moment. So just practice, some mindfulness. That's one thing that I do when I start to feel a little bit anxious. Practicing my five senses and identifying them out loud. Okay, I see this. I smell this. I hear this. This is how my mouth feels dry. So maybe I need some water, and I'm going to touch something. This is something that I can touch. So just being practicing the art of mindfulness, setting boundaries, especially with family and friends. I don't discuss politics. I don't bring up politics in sessions. If my clients do ask, I share what I feel comfortable sharing. Politics I don't bring up if it's going to stress me out. I just don't. So set your boundaries and have compassion. I've said this before the election even started, and it's been a 4-year journey for me. People that disagree with you or have different thoughts or different values, that is okay. That is okay. Hold space for them, and then you can shut it down when it starts becoming disrespectful. So we have to hold space for each other. We're not the only ones right in this. I said it in a post on Instagram. If you don't follow me on Instagram, at Audacious Adri Show on Instagram, I said we have to live in this country with each other. We probably should get along. So because a place divided, what's it going to do if somebody tries to, do something to us? How do we look when we're infighting? Our enemy is outside. Okay, our enemy is not inside. So that's just my 2 cents on that. Number 3, and try your best to stay physically well, stay grounded and energized. I would say definitely up that exercise routine. Short walks are so important. If you can get your walks in, if you can get your walk in after you vote or before, and just get your amazing self-care routine in that day, or when you're sending your ballot out, or when you go into the voting polls, do what you need to do. Stay hydrated, make sure you're eating well, because when your body is stressed, it relies on, it goes into fight or flight and it releases cortisol, and your body is basically doing what it can to keep you alive. So you may need, if this is a stressful time for you, you may need to up your caloric intake, up your protein, depending, go to your doctor, do what you can to say, neutralize, no, not neutralize, do what you can to make sure that you're eating healthy foods and getting lots of water, like me. I would say, like I said before, stretching, like in the morning, you can add some morning stretches or some breathing exercises. I personally like 5 in. Wait, no, that's not 5 in. It's 3. It's 3. So 3 seconds of breathe, hold for 5, out for 3. So 3-5-3. I love that. My first therapist taught me that. My very first therapist in 2020 during the pandemic taught me how to do that. So you can find some breathing exercises on YouTube or Google them or ChatGPT, whatever you like to use, and figure out your way to stay sane. Lastly, or there's 2 more. Spiritual and emotional centering. I did my spiritual practice today. I sat and I talked with God. I said, God, you can tell me which is the right person that I need to vote for. Send it in a burning bush. Send a bird. Just let me know, because I have an idea. I was like, I just want to make sure I believe in Christ. So I want to make sure that I'm making the God honest decision, and I'll share it with you. God directed me to the fruits of the Spirit. So if you're not familiar, these are the fruits of the Spirit, and I want to share them with you. Like I said, I'm not trying to tell you who to vote for, but I want to share this with you because I think it's very important. So the fruits of the Spirit.
Okay, so the fruits of the Spirit are love, joy, peace, love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, faithfulness, gentleness, and self-control. Those are the fruits of the Spirit. So I said, so God basically directed me to those fruits of the Spirit. And I feel in my spirit as though God was saying, whoever represents those fruits of the Spirit, it's your winner. So that's just a little bit how God guided me. So you can ask your higher power, your God. I hope that you would ask the Lord Jesus Christ who would be the right person to vote for. And if you need to pray for a little bit longer, some people like to fast. You want to fast until you get the answer, or fast until, like, let's just say you're like, I'm so angry at this other side. Fast until the Lord shows you how to have compassion for them, or empathy, or understanding, until you have the fruits of the Spirit in your heart. Whether you need to write down your prayers, or read your word, or go on a prayer walk, or spend some time serving your community, or however you like to commune and be one with your higher power. I think it's very important during this election season to rely on the higher power and our spiritual power as we make these decisions, as we experience some disappointment, as we hear attacks, and some attacks feel personal. I'm just going to be 100% honest here. Somebody that I've known for many years in a church setting said some very mean things about Kamala. I'm just gonna keep it 100 here. She said some pretty mean things about Kamala, and I happen to feel like Kamala represents me a little bit. She's a Black woman. She's a woman of color. She's a childless woman. So there are some things that she's educated. There's some things I identify with her, and this person was like insulting them in a way, calling Kamala an idiot, basically. And it hurt my feelings. And so I got angry, and I said a couple words, and those couple of those words had exclamation points and stars where I can't even say them here. I would get in trouble. And I was just so angry and emotional about it. And I had to go. And I felt like the Lord was looking at me and scolding me, child. And I had to go apologize. And I had to say, you know what you said about Kamala just really hurt my feelings. It really, I feel like she kind of represents me. And she looks like me. And, what you said, it almost felt like you were insulting me personally. And I had to ask that person for forgiveness. And that wasn't fun. I don't want to do that. Are you kidding me? I wanted to be right. And I wanted to hurt that person, but I had to ask the Lord to help me to have compassion and just be kind, because how can I say, oh, y'all need to be kind and we need to blah, 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 if I'm not practicing that? So y'all, I messed up. I messed up. I messed up, and I had to ask for forgiveness, and I had to ask for help. So I'm in this with y'all. Okay. Sometimes the teacher becomes the student. Okay. And so 5, using social media mindfully. That's self-explanatory. Log off, touch grass. I don't need to make this big. Touch some freaking grass. Okay. Yes, this is happening, but social media is social media. We have, like I said before, we have to live in this country. Some of y'all have to send your kids to school with these people. We have to go to the same churches. We have to study together and work together. Child, this is just an election. I know I'm not minimizing it, okay? Because our humanity is on the line. Yes. But what I am trying to say is that, like, if you're going to fight your neighbor, it's not worth it. It's just not. You're going to fight your neighbor over a president who probably won't ever meet you or care. You know what I mean? Like, it's not that serious. If it's really that serious, I need you to write a letter to your local governor, or to your senator, or to your congressman. Like, what are you doing in your local? Are you volunteering? Are you doing what you need to do? And if you don't even vote, I don't even want to have the conversation. I don't want to hear you going on, like, none of that. Okay. Let's be adults. Let's be adults here. So let's limit our exposure to the news. I know it's like really important in this last couple of days, but like if you feel like you're getting a little angry and a little cranky, maybe walk away. Okay. I would say maybe like a digital detox, maybe like the day before, or like on November 5th, or maybe not, like November 6th. Like, okay, we already know who's president for the most part. We already know what's happened. Like, just please take care of yourself. Okay. um Curate your feeds. You can say thumbs down to things you don't want to see. You can follow Audacious Life Coaching on my Instagram page, and I will encourage you and just give you some tips to improve your life and work on your purpose. Focus on your purpose. Okay, the president's doing what the president needs to do. How about you focus on your purpose? Focus on your civic duty and your duty and your purpose in your life every day, because your life is not going to stop anytime soon. It's going to continue. And yes, it will affect us, but we still have a responsibility to live out our purpose and our callings in our lives. So just be careful on the social medias. And, I saw, I don't know if this is true, but I did see this Instagram or this YouTube video about like bots like starting like all these arguments. And I'm guilty of it too. I got into it a couple times about civics, about like laws and stuff, and somebody was completely saying the wrong thing about a law, and I was like, "Are you okay?" I was like, "Whoa, am I okay?" I had to check myself. We have to consistently check ourselves and surround ourselves with people that love us and that can check us and say, "Sis, you doing too much. You need to go." So let's just make sure that we're acting like adults on social media. I'm working on that as well. Like I said, community support and finding like-minded spaces. Power of community is so important. I'm making plans to meet with some friends on November 4th. We're going to meet up. We're going to make sure we have lots of good lots of bad foods, lots of carbs, lots of cheese, lots of bread, that we can just get it out. We're going to let it out. We're going to talk about it. There may be some wine involved. It'll be a good time. So surround yourself with people that you love, people that are like-minded, and that also can check you and say, okay, you're doing a little too much. And just be with your people that you love, because this could be either a really amazing, happy day for some people, or it could be an incredibly stressful, please forgive me, an incredibly stressful, like awful day for some people. So, if you're the strong friend, like make sure you take care of yourself, because you may need to be there for somebody that's really going through. And if you are incredibly invested and, you feel like you're going to have an emotional breakdown, please have some people that love you and care for you around, and stay off social media. And lastly, hope and resilience moving forward. Remember when we had a president that like his whole campaign was hope and we were all happy? Remember that? Let's just keep up that same energy. Let's keep that same energy. Let's keep hope alive no matter what happens. First of all, this is God's country. In my opinion, God owns this. Okay. So no matter what happens, God's will prevail. If you follow Christ, Romans 8:28 says all things work according for the good of those that love God and are called according to his purpose. So even if something, in your opinion, bad happens, God is going to work it out. Okay. The president's only the president for 4 years. Okay. Only for 4 years. We can get through this. Okay. We can do this. And I just want to share a little story. I remember when I first came to Los Angeles, I was like feeling some type of way about another political party, and I was like, they don't like me. They wanna hurt me. I want to be around them. I remember I was so like afraid of the other party, and I felt like I had a conversation with God, and I felt like God was saying, hey, you don't know their story. You don't know what they're into. Why don't you open up your heart to people? Because I mean, let's just be real here. Like, I'm just thinking about my life. I used to live in country Georgia. Okay. I went to high school in a very rural part of Georgia. And I had friends some friends, they did have the rebel flag, like they would wear a shirt with a rebel flag. If you don't know that, it's like the Confederate flag. And I never knew what that was because I grew up in New York. And I would ask them, what is that? Like, why do you have that? And they would say, well, it's like it's a Southern thing. It's about tradition. And what tradition it is, you ask? Well, that's not the point. The point was that I sat down and had a conversation with them instead of painting them out to be this person that is XYZ. I had a conversation so I can make the judge because I had a conversation with them and they had a conversation with me. And I had the opportunity to grow up around the NASCAR races, the motor speedway. And I went to NASCAR races with people that I never thought that I would ever even be in the same room with. And when I tell you, those are some of my favorite memories, or some of the nicest people I ever met. I just think I prejudged people before having a conversation with them. And God kind of brought that back to my attention. He was like, remember your experience in Georgia? I have nothing but fond memories of some of the people that I never thought that I would ever share space with or be friends with. And when I came to Los Angeles, because I thought I was in a part of Los Angeles that the demographics reflected a party that, I didn't really agree with. And I felt like God was saying, like, hey, give him a chance, like, open up your heart. And I ended up meeting some amazing people, and I ended up having some conversations. And I remember being in a focus group for a dissertation with politicians on the other side, and we were agreeing with each other. And I was like, oh, that ain't nothing but the Lord. Okay. Because I think our conversation was about social media regulation. And my view was like, please don't do that. Don't regulate our freedom of speech. And some of these politicians on the other side were like, that's actually like, we agree with that. That's what we want. Like, they weren't like necessarily like agreeing with me, but we agreed on some points. And I was like, oh my God, I never thought that this could ever happen. So I'm not saying be besties. I'm not saying go to dinner, go on vacation. I'm saying, like, when a person shows you who they are, believe them, but give them an opportunity to show them who they are. Show them who you are. So it will just help your life. I'm telling you, when I was walking around hating people for no reason without even knowing them, my life was so sad and miserable. But when I decided to hold space for people and be a champion of peace and of love, and my life improved. And I met some great people, and it's nice to know people that, when your party's messing up, you can go and be like, those people are crazy. So I think that's a great place to stop. So I just want everybody to take a deep breath. Ready? Let's just take a collective deep breath. Ready? 1, 2, 3. As the prolific rapper and philosopher Kendrick Lamar says, we gonna be all right. Okay, we gonna be all right. The president has to defend the Constitution. The Constitution is what protects us. So we are good, and we will cry if we need to cry. We will get mad if we need to get mad. But until then, we're going to take care of ourselves, because how are you going to defend a country if you aren't living? Because stress can unalive you, baby. And I just want you to be around for the next election. So thank you so much for watching my video. Thank you for listening to and watching the Audacious Life Podcast. You can follow me on Instagram at Audacious Adri Show, and you can follow my life coaching company at Audacious Life Coaching. I'm so grateful that you're here. Leave a comment in the comment section. Let me know what your post-election ritual is going to be. So I shared about going out with friends and getting some carbs and some cheese and some wine. What are you going to do to celebrate you casting your vote? I want to know. Thank you so much for watching, and thank you so much for your patience, because I've had technical issues, technical difficulties. I love you guys so much. We're going to be fine.